The cage. Cold metal walls. No sky. No sun. Only pain. Lena sat in the corner of a dark alien prison cell. She was small, young, and human. Her hair was messy, her clothes torn. Her eyes, however, were not weak. They were sharp, focused. Outside the bars, two alien guards laughed. They were tall, with green skin and long arms. Their eyes glowed yellow. "She's just a human girl," one said in a deep voice. "She won't last a day." The other guard hit the bars with his weapon. The sound echoed. Lena didn't flinch. She just stared at them. "See, already broken," the second guard said. But Lena was not broken. She was thinking. She remembered the day they came. It was early morning on her colony. Earth had sent many humans to build cities on new planets. Lena lived with her parents in a peaceful place with trees, water, and farms. Then the ships came, black and fast. The sky turned red. Aliens jumped out, shooting fire from their hands. People screamed. Soldiers tried to fight, but the alien weapons were too strong. One by one, her neighbors fell. Her father tried to hide her in a basement. He kissed her forehead and said, "Stay quiet, no matter what." Then he ran outside. He never came back. Hours later, they found her. She kicked and screamed, but they laughed and dragged her away. Back in the cell, Lena breathed slowly. The guards were gone now. She looked around. Next to her, a boy was crying. Maybe 12 years old. His name was Thomas. "Do you think they'll kill us?" he whispered. Lena didn't answer right away. She looked at the walls. Scratched lines. Someone had marked each day they were here. Many lines. "No," Lena said. "They won't kill us. They want slaves. What will we do?" Lena's hand moved under the blanket. Hidden there was a piece of metal she had broken from her food tray. She had been sharpening it against the wall at night. "We wait," she said. "And we prepare." "Prepare for what?" "To fight back." Thomas stared at her like she was crazy. She didn't look strong. She didn't look dangerous. But she was. Later that night, the door opened again. Food trays were thrown inside. Cold and wet. Not real food. Alien sludge. Lena picked hers up and walked to the bars. A guard was standing there, bored. "What do you want, human?" he growled. "Thank you for the food," Lena said softly. The guard laughed. "See, some humans learn respect." She smiled, then dropped the tray by accident. It spilled everywhere. The guard cursed. "Idiot," he shouted. As he opened the gate halfway to yell at her, Lena bent down to clean the mess. Her fingers quickly touched a loose piece of wire from the tray and hid it in her sleeve. The gate slammed shut again. The guard left. Lena sat back down. Quietly, carefully, she pulled out the wire and added it to her small pile of hidden things under her sleeping mat. One sharp spoon, one wire, one piece of glass. Not much, but it was a start. Days passed. Lena watched everything, where the guards walked, when the lights turned off, how the doors opened. She said little, but she learned a lot. Sometimes she saw new prisoners brought in. Some screamed. Some were silent. Most cried. But not Lena. One night, she heard a voice from the next cell. An old man. "You're the quiet one, aren't you?" "And you're the talkative one," Lena replied. He laughed softly. "Smart, too. You're planning something." "What makes you say that?" "I've seen girls like you before. Eyes like knives. You're not here to die, are you?" "No," Lena said. "I'm here to survive. And maybe more. You'll need help. There's a way out, but it's hard." He told her about tunnels under the prison. Old escape paths, now forgotten. Maybe still useful. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because they already broke me," he said. "But not you. You still have fire." Lena smiled in the dark. The next morning, she scratched something on her wall. A small symbol, her own mark. Not a tally of days, but a promise. They think I'm weak, she thought. That will be her first mistake. The Whisper Network. The prison never slept. Even when the lights went off and the halls turned dark, the walls still whispered. The alien guards didn't notice it, but Lena did. Lena had been listening. She noticed how, when the guards were gone, some prisoners tapped on the walls. The sounds were strange at first, like rats scratching or someone knocking by accident. But then she began to understand. It wasn't random. It was a code, a human code. One night, when the hallway was empty and quiet, Lena waited. Thomas was asleep beside her, curled up like a scared child. Lena pressed her ear to the wall and tapped her fingers 3 times. Pause. Then 2 taps. Pause. 1 more tap. Silence. Then suddenly, tap, tap, pause, tap, tap, tap. Someone answered. Lena sat up. Her eyes narrowed. There were more survivors here than she thought, and they were talking. Not with words, with hope. The next day, the guards brought in new prisoners. One of them was bleeding badly. A tall woman with short white hair, her arms covered in burns. The guards threw her into the cell next to Lena's and laughed as they walked away. Lena waited until the hallway cleared. Then, under her breath, she whispered through the wall, "Can you hear me?" Silence. Then a soft answer. "Who are you?" "Name's Lena." "You?" "Captain Mirakai, Earth Resistance." Or, "I used to be." Lena's heart jumped. A captain. A real fighter. She didn't sound like a prisoner. She sounded like a leader. "I've been mapping the guards' paths. I know the shift times, I think. We can do something." "You?" Mira let out a weak laugh. "You're just a girl." Lena smiled to herself. Everyone kept saying that. Just a girl. They didn't understand. "I'm not alone," Lena said. "There's a network." Network. Other prisoners. They talk through the walls. They share things. Weaknesses. Names. Hope. Mira went quiet. Then she said one word. Whisper. "What?" "That's what we called it, back in the early camps. The Whisper Network. We thought it died, but maybe it's still alive." "It is," Lena said, "and I want in." That night, the tapping became louder. The whole block seemed to come alive with fingers on walls. Codes. Signals. Messages passed from one end of the prison to another. Lena learned the patterns quickly. 2 taps and a pause meant danger. 3 fast taps meant guard moving. A long tap meant someone new. And then there were names. Prisoner numbers. Cell numbers. She memorized all of it. She wasn't just surviving now. She was connecting. In the morning, Lena was taken out of her cell for work duty. They made humans clean the lower tunnels of the prison. The air was dirty, the light flickered, and the floors were slippery with alien oil. But Lena didn't complain. Because down here, under the prison, she saw things. Wires, vents, control panels, doors, unmarked doors. And she saw other humans working too. Silent, thin, eyes full of fear, but still alive. When the guards weren't looking, Lena made eye contact with a young man sweeping the floor. He stared at her. Then, very carefully, he tapped his foot 3 times on the metal floor. Pause. Then 2. She answered with the same pattern. He nodded. They were everywhere. The Whisper Network wasn't small. It was an army waiting to be awakened. Back in her cell that night, Lena took out the wire she'd stolen earlier. She bent it into a circle and placed it near the small energy pad that kept her food tray warm. The pad buzzed quietly. It gave off a weak but steady hum of power. Lena attached the wire to it and waited. She had seen the guards use similar pads to recharge their weapons. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. A soft light blinked from the wire's end. Lena grinned. She wasn't just learning now. She was building. Later that week, Mira whispered something new. "There's a hole under the waste chute near the mess hall. It leads to the lower control station." "How do you know?" Lena asked. "Because I helped build it before they captured me." Lena felt chills. Everything was coming together. The codes, the map, the weak points, the plan. But then something unexpected happened. A scream. Loud, long, full of pain. Lena and Mira both froze. The tapping stopped across the walls. Everyone went silent. The guards were dragging someone across the hallway. A man, his back bleeding, his face swollen. "They found one of us," Mira whispered. "They found someone who tapped." The guard stopped near Lena's cell. The bleeding man lifted his head, one eye swollen shut. He looked at her. He mouthed a word. "Map." Then they took him away. Lena stood there, frozen. They were getting close. She wasn't safe anymore. She turned to Thomas. "We move soon." He nodded slowly, fear in his eyes. "But how?" he asked. She looked down at her wire, her spoon, her notes scratched in the dirt. And then at the wall. "They listen through pain. We'll speak through silence." That night, Lena tapped out a new message on the wall. "Strike soon. Weak point found. Wait for signal." And all through the prison, the walls answered her. Blood and sparks. The prison was colder than usual. The lights flickered more often. The guards were quieter. Even their laughter had faded. Something was changing, and the Zarnak could feel it. But they didn't know why. Not yet. Lena waited until night. She sat in her usual corner, sharpening her spoon against the floor. It didn't look like a weapon, but in her hands, it was sharper than most knives. The whispers on the wall had stopped for now. That was part of the plan. Too much tapping would make the aliens suspicious. They were already nervous. 2 guards had gone missing last week. Most prisoners thought they were transferred. But Lena knew the truth. The whisper network had started to bite back. Lena pressed her fingers to the stone beneath her sleeping mat. She found the tiny spot where she'd loosened a tile days ago. Underneath it, a stolen ID chip, a piece of alien armor, and a folded map of the lower level, all hidden in a dirty cloth. She took a deep breath. Tonight was the night. Her first mission. Her first strike. Not to escape, but to prepare for war. Hours later, the hallway lights blinked red. That meant shift change. Guards became lazy at this hour. Most were half asleep. Some even skipped patrol. Lena knew this window lasted only 7 minutes. She whispered to Thomas, "Stay. No matter what you hear. Don't make a sound." Thomas's eyes went wide. "Lena, are you?" "I'll be back," she said, "or I won't." Then she slipped out. She wore part of the alien armor under her rags. Not enough to be noticed, but enough to stop a blade or blast. The ID chip was hidden in her palm. She walked calmly through the hallway like a ghost. She didn't run. That would look wrong. She reached a door marked in alien script, Storage Unit 4B. This door wasn't guarded, because it held cleaning bots and broken junk. But Lena had learned something from the Whisper Network. Behind that storage unit was a thin wall, and behind that wall was the main generator tunnel. One of the old prisoners used to work there before his hands were burned. Lena pressed the ID chip against the panel. The door beeped, opened. She slipped inside and closed it behind her. Dark, cold, smelled like rust. She moved quietly, pushing broken bots aside, until she reached the back wall. She took out the bent spoon and began scraping the wall's edge. After a few minutes, a small piece came loose. Then more. Then a hole. She could feel warm air from the generator tunnel on the other side. She was in. The generator room was huge. Pipes ran along the ceiling like veins. Sparks flew from exposed wires. The hum of power filled the air. Lena crouched low. There were 2 guards inside. One was checking the control panel. The other was asleep with his feet on a crate. Lena moved like a shadow. She climbed a stack of old pipes silently and dropped behind a pillar. From there, she could see the power core, a glowing orb held in metal rings. It was the prison's heart. If she planted the spark detonator here, it wouldn't destroy the prison, but it would send a message. She waited for her moment. The first guard turned away. The second was still asleep. She crept forward, 1 step at a time. Suddenly, CLN. Her foot hit a loose wrench. The sound echoed. The awake guard turned. He saw her. What? Before he could shout, Lena jumped forward and slammed the sharp spoon into his throat. He fell backward, gasping. The second guard woke up too late. She threw the wrench at his face. It hit his eye. He roared and lunged at her. They fought in silence, grunting, grappling. He grabbed her arm. She bit his hand. He screamed. Then she grabbed his weapon from his belt, something like a knife but electric. She stabbed him. The blade buzzed with blue light. He fell, twitching. Dead. Blood, dark purple alien blood, dripped across the floor. Lena stood there, shaking. She had never killed before. Now she had killed twice. And she was still alive. She wiped her face and moved to the core. She opened her bag and took out the spark detonator, a tiny device made from parts stolen over many days, a heating pad, a broken electric pen, a spark coil, a coin. She pressed it to the base of the core. A soft blue light turned on. Timer. 10 minutes. Plenty of time to get out. But she didn't run yet. She walked to the dead guards. She pulled off one of their chest plates, then one of their arm guards, then their helmet. She put them on. Now she didn't look like a human anymore. She looked like a guard, a small one. But still, it would buy her seconds. Seconds mattered. She crawled back through the hole and returned to Storage Unit 4B. She cleaned her hands with oil and dust. She returned to her cell in silence. Thomas stared at her as she slid in beside him. "Did you?" She didn't answer. Then the lights flickered. A low hum started in the distance. Then a WHUMMM. A deep sound shook the walls. Thomas looked around, scared. What was that? Lena smiled. Just a spark. In the alien control room, alarms began to flash. Engineers screamed. Guards shouted in confusion. Something had struck the power grid, but no one had fired a weapon. One alien captain stared at the screen, watching power levels drop. "Impossible," he growled. No one got in. But someone had. And that someone had left behind 2 dead guards and a tiny mark scratched into the floor. It was a human symbol, a half-moon with 3 dots. Lena's mark. Back in her cell, she scratched the same mark into the wall. Thomas watched her in silence. "You're not scared?" he asked. Lena's eyes gleamed in the dark. "I was," she said. "But now." She looked at the spoon, the wire, the stolen armor hidden under her mat. Now it's their turn. Rising ghost. The power still hadn't fully returned. Lights blinked. Doors glitched. Alarms randomly screamed, then went silent. The prison was unstable now. And the Zarnak were afraid. Not of war, not of rebellion, but of a ghost. They didn't know her name. Only whispers. She walks between shadows. She wears stolen armor. She kills without sound. Some said she wasn't real, just a lie to make the humans feel strong. Others weren't so sure, because every few nights a guard would go missing. No body, no trace, just silence. And a mark, scratched into the wall, a half-moon, 3 dots. Lena's mark. Back in her cell, Lena was not smiling. Her hands were blistered, her body bruised. Her spoon knife had snapped during her last fight. but her eyes were sharper than ever. She sat with Thomas, Mira, and 3 others now, all from different cells, all connected through the Whisper network. They met during cleaning duty and power shutdown drills. The guards never watched closely during those. Too bored, too proud. That was their weakness. Now, Lena had 5 rebels. And a plan. The first meeting was deep below the laundry sector, where the floor always leaked steam. They called it the fog room. Lena stood in front of them, her hands black with dust and wire. "We hit the weapon room next," she said. Mira shook her head. "Too risky. That area's crawling with guards." "We don't need the weapons," Lena replied. "We need the blueprints." "Blueprints?" Lena nodded. "They keep them in the archive near the weapons. We get the layout of this whole facility. Then we'll know every door, every tunnel, every vent." A tall man named Bryce leaned forward. "And then what?" "Then we burn this place down." No one laughed. No one argued. Not anymore. They had seen what Lena could do. She wasn't just a girl now. She was the ghost in the wires. That night, the ghosts moved. Lena and Mira crept through the dark hallways in stolen armor. They had memorized every camera blind spot, every patrol shift, every vent that stayed loose. They reached the archive door without a sound. Lena pressed her stolen chip to the lock. Red light. Access denied. She cursed under her breath. Mira looked around. "We can't blow it. Too loud." Lena didn't move. She just stared at the door. Then whispered, "Step back." She took out a tiny tube from her bag. Inside it, acid, made from cleaner fluids mixed in the laundry rooms. She dripped it on the door's edge. It hissed, sizzled. Then, pop, the door creaked open. They slipped inside. The archive was full of glowing screens and scroll-like datapads. Lena scanned the walls. "Here," she whispered. A drawer marked Structural Design. Prison blockades A to G. They pulled the pads, wrapped them in cloth, and hid them under armor plates. As they turned to leave, Lena froze. Footsteps. Voices. Guards. 3 of them. They were heading straight toward the door. No way out in time. Mira looked around, then pointed to a metal chute. Air vent. Too small. "Now," Mira said. Lena didn't argue. They climbed up, fast and silent. Just as the door slid open, they pulled the vent cover shut. From inside the vent, they watched. The guards entered. They saw nothing, but one paused. He looked around, then at the wall, where Lena had accidentally left a handprint in acid burn. A faint mark, but the shape was clear. A crescent. 3 dots. The alien's eyes widened. "She was here," he whispered. Back in the fog room, Lena spread the blueprints across the floor. The rebels stared. The prison was massive, but the blueprints showed old tunnels, forgotten lifts, empty zones the guards never used. "Here," Lena said, pointing. "This is where we'll hide weapons." "Here," she pointed again. "Sleeping quarters. We make a fake wall." "And here." She circled the command center. Bryce raised an eyebrow. "That's suicide." "No," Lena said. "That's the heart." She looked up at all of them. "They think we're rats in cages, but we're not. We're the virus in their system. They just don't know it yet." The ghost stories spread fast now. Guards whispered in their own language. Some refused night duty. Some doubled their patrols. Others left in fear. The prison began to change. Not from fire, but from fear. One human girl had made an empire shake, and she was just getting started. Later that week, a Zarnak officer named Kreltor stood in the control tower. He watched cameras. He listened to the reports. Another missing patrol. Another body with that cursed mark. He slammed the desk. "This is no ghost. This is war." He leaned closer to the screen. Find her. Find the human girl. Before she becomes a legend. But it was too late. She already was. That night, Lena carved her mark into the highest wall in the prison's east tower. Not in secret, not in shadow, but boldly, where every Zarna could see. It glowed under the flickering light. Half moon, 3 dots. The ghost had risen, and the army was coming. Rebellion's fire. The prison walls shook, not from machines, not from storms, but from something deeper. Fear. The Zarnak guards walked faster now. They talked less. They held their weapons tighter. Because they knew something was coming. And they knew who was behind it. Not an army. Not a warship. Just a human girl. Lena stood in the fog room with 12 rebels now. Not 5. 12. The whispered network had grown stronger. Messages passed faster. More prisoners joined the cause. They were ready. We strike tonight, Lena said. No one argued. No one flinched. They had all seen the mark. They had all heard the stories. And they believed in her now. Not just as a leader, but as a symbol. Their plan was clear. Free the prisoner block in sector. Light the fire signal from the roof of tower. Take control of the armory. Each step would take minutes. But if done right, those minutes would change everything. Lena moved through the hallway wearing full Zarnak armor. The helmet was too big for her, but it hid her face. Mira walked beside her, dressed the same. They passed 2 guards. No one stopped them. The ID chip worked, just like before. They reached Sector C's control room. Inside was one Zarnak officer, sitting alone. He looked up. Why are you here? Lena didn't answer. She pulled off her helmet. The alien's eyes widened. Then, crack, Mira smashed him with a stolen shock baton. He collapsed. Unconscious. Lena ran to the control panel. Her fingers moved fast. Doors began to open across Sector C. One by one, prisoner gates unlocked. Humans looked around confused. Then they saw her. Lena. The ghost. The rebel. She pointed. Move. Follow the path. Go to the fog room. You're free. No one questioned. They ran. The fire was lit. In Tower 3, Bryce and 2 others fought their way to the top. They used spears made from pipes. One alien fell. Then another. Blood hit the stairs. Bryce reached the roof. He lit a flare using a broken spark detonator and dry cloth. Boom! A red ball of fire shot into the sky. It glowed over the entire prison. Every prisoner saw it. Every rebel understood. It had begun. The rebellion. In the main hall, Lena and Mira led the charge toward the armory. 6 rebels behind them, more joining every second. The guards tried to stop them. Laser blasts flew past. Screams echoed. Lena ducked behind a pillar. Mira tossed her a grenade, a small one, homemade. Lena pulled the wire and threw it. Boom! Smoke filled the hall. She ran through it and slammed her shoulder into the armory door. Locked, but not for long. She attached a power coil to the panel. The wires sparked. The door slid open. Inside, guns, blades, explosives. The kind of weapons humans were never allowed to touch. Now, they were free to choose. Each rebel picked one, even Lena. She chose a small plasma knife. Light, fast, silent. Like her, alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. The Zarnak guards swarmed. They came from all sides. Lena didn't hide anymore. She stood in the center of the hall. She raised her weapon high. We fight together now, she shouted. We fight as one. The prisoners screamed back, and they charged. The hall turned into a battlefield. Humans versus aliens. Sparks flew. Blood spilled. Pain. fire, noise. But the humans kept going. For the first time, they were not victims. They were warriors. In the command tower, Captain Kreltor watched in rage. "They're breaking through," one officer said. Kreltor smashed the screen with his fist. "All units, kill the human girl. Kill the ghost." But no one could find her, because she moved like air. She struck like fire, and she vanished like smoke. Back in the armory, Lena stood over a fallen guard. She was breathing hard. Her arm was bleeding, but she didn't stop. Mira ran to her. "We've secured the West Wing." "How many dead?" "Too many, but we're holding." Lena looked around. This place, this prison, it was no longer a cage. It was a battlefield, and it was hers. She stepped onto a table and shouted, "No more hiding. No more fear. This place belongs to us now." The crowd roared, louder than any explosion. The fire was no longer a symbol. It was real, and it burned in every rebel's chest. Across the galaxy, Zarnak stations picked up a strange signal, a flare, from a prison planet long thought under control. The signal had no words, just an image, a symbol scratched into metal, a half-moon, 3 dots, the mark of a ghost, the mark of a girl, the mark of Lena, and the galaxy began to whisper. She was just a human girl, but now, she's the fire that burns empires. The march. The prison was quiet now. Too quiet. Smoke still floated in the air. Lights flickered. Walls were stained with blood, red and purple. Doors were broken. Sirens were silent. The screaming had stopped, but something louder had taken its place. Hope. Lena walked through the ruins of the prison hall. Her boots crunched over broken glass and alien armor. Humans stared as she passed. They didn't speak. They didn't cheer. They simply watched her with wide eyes. She was no longer just a girl, no longer just a ghost. Now she was a general. In the fog room, the rebel leaders gathered. There were almost 60 humans now, some armed with stolen alien weapons, others with makeshift gear, pipes, knives, wires tied around their fists. They had no uniforms, but they had something better. Purpose. Bryce spoke first. "The prison is ours, but we can't stay here. The Zarnak will return, with ships, with fire." "We don't wait for them," Lena said. Everyone turned to her. "We move first. We take the fight to them." Silence. Then Mira nodded. "You're serious." Lena stepped forward and placed a blueprint on the table. Drawn in chalk. Lines, tunnels, a route. "This map leads to the Zarnak outpost just beyond the canyon," she said. "They have transport ships, communication towers. If we take that place, we speak to the galaxy." Bryce frowned. "You want to tell the universe a human girl broke an alien prison?" Lena shook her head. "I want to tell them, we're coming." That night, the rebels prepared for the march. They gathered food from storage rooms, repaired armor, wrapped wounds, sharpened blades. Some were afraid. Some cried quietly, but none left. They followed Lena as she walked among them, touching shoulders, locking eyes, whispering words of strength. "We walk together. We fight together. No one is alone anymore." Before dawn, they moved. Through a broken gate, into the frozen canyon. Snow fell gently. The wind was cold, but their hearts were burning. It was a strange thing, watching a group of slaves walk like warriors. They didn't look powerful, but every step they took cracked the ground beneath them, because this was the march of the broken, the march of the forgotten, the march of humans. Hours passed. Lena walked at the front, Mira beside her. Thomas walked too, still young, still scared, but no longer silent. The rebels said nothing. They saved their breath for the battle. By evening, They reached a high cliff. Below it, the Zarnok outpost. It was smaller than the prison, but stronger. Walls built from black stone. Towers glowing blue. And most dangerous of all, communication beacons. Those towers could speak to the stars. They could scream for help, or they could carry a message. From humans. Lena looked down at the outpost, then back at her people. "This is not about revenge," she said. "This is about warning them." She pointed up at the stars. "Let them know we're not weak anymore." Inside the outpost, the Zarnok guards relaxed. They hadn't heard from the prison in days. But that didn't worry them. It was just a prison. Just humans. What could go wrong? Then the first explosion came. Boom. A tower fell. Flames rose. Sirens screamed. Guards grabbed weapons, but it was already too late. The humans were inside the walls. Silent. Fast. Brutal. One by one, Zarnok fell. Their lasers didn't matter, because humans didn't stop. They didn't retreat. They had come too far. Lena led the charge into the command tower. She moved like fire. Her blade cut the air. Guards ran, but she chased them. One screamed, "It's the ghost." She smiled. Not a ghost anymore. A storm. In the top room of the tower, Lena reached the controls. She placed a stolen Zarnok beacon core onto the console. Mira helped connect the wires. Bryce held the door shut as enemies pounded on it. Thomas lit the backup power. The beacon turned on. A red glow filled the sky. Then Lena spoke. Her voice carried through stars, through dust, through time. She didn't shout. She didn't scream. She just said the truth. "This is Lena, a human girl. We were locked, beaten, burned, but we rose. This prison is free now. And if you hear my voice, we're coming. You will never hurt us again. You will never forget our name. We are human. And we remember everything." The beacon blinked 3 times. Then it sent the message out, across the stars. Every ship, every satellite, every planet. They would all hear it. The humans were not dead. The humans were not weak. The humans were marching. The door broke behind them. Zarnok soldiers poured in. Bryce screamed. Mira fired her stolen rifle. Thomas threw a shock grenade. Lena turned and ran into the fight, eyes wild. The message had been sent. Now came the war. Outside, the outpost burned. More humans ran to help. More aliens fell. The wind howled. But the humans didn't stop. Not now. Not ever. This was the march, and it would end in fire. The day she became their nightmare. The sky was red. Not from the sun, but from fire. Smoke climbed high above the canyon. The once proud Zarnok outpost now burned like paper. Black walls cracked. Towers fell. The snow melted under heat and blood. And standing in the middle of it all was a girl, a human girl, with armor too big, a blade in her hand, and a storm in her eyes. Lena had survived. Barely. The last wave of Zarnok soldiers had almost overrun the command tower. She had fought until her arms shook, until the knife slipped from her fingers, until her helmet cracked and blood ran down her face. But she had stood her ground. So had Mira. So had Thomas. So had Bryce, until a blast hit him in the chest and threw him across the floor. Now he lay still, dead. Lena kneeled beside his body. She didn't cry, but her fingers trembled as she closed his eyes. "You're free now," she whispered. Then she stood, because the living still had work to do. The humans had taken the outpost, but their fight wasn't over. A Zarnok dropship was coming. It would arrive in minutes. Heavy weapons, armored units, maybe even more beasts. They couldn't win a long battle. Lena knew that. But maybe they didn't have to. The control tower still had one weapon left. A deep system buried beneath the base. One final card. One final fire. Lena stared at the console. Mira limped beside her. That's a fusion core. If you blow that, it'll take out the entire outpost, Lena said. And us. Lena didn't answer. Mira grabbed her arm. There are still children here. I know. We can escape. Lena turned slowly. No. Mira's eyes widened. What do you mean? I'm not escaping. I didn't come this far to watch you die, Lena. Lena smiled sadly. I didn't come this far to run. She turned back to the console. Typed in the codes. The core began to charge. A soft hum filled the air. The screen turned red. Warning lights flashed. Mira stared at her, then hugged her tightly. You were never just a girl, she said. You were a revolution. Then she ran. She gathered the others, led them through the tunnels, through the snow, away from the fire. Lena stayed behind, alone, bleeding, breathing. She sat on the steps of the tower. She looked at the sky. Stars twinkled, and she smiled. Far above, the Zarnak dropship pierced the clouds. Fast, loud, deadly. Its captain saw the burning outpost. He laughed. One girl did this. Pathetic. Then, HFY. A white light exploded from the base. Then fire. Then silence. The ship was gone. So was the outpost. So was Lena. Or so they thought. 1 week later, on a distant moon, a rebel base buzzed with voices. Human survivors. Refugees. Fighters. All talking about one name. Lena. She lit the signal. She made the Zarnak bleed. She walked through fire. She died so we could live. But then, on the edge of camp, a figure limped through the trees. Small. Wrapped in a burnt cloak. Face scared. Eyes burning. It was her. Lena. Alive. The base froze. Then someone whispered, It's her. The ghost. No. The general. And all around her, people dropped to one knee. Not because she asked, but because they believed. Because she had done the impossible. She had taken a prison. She had burned an army. She had walked through death. And now, she was here. Months passed. The galaxy changed. Human rebels rose from shadows. Old colonies reignited. Zarnak forces were pushed back. New banners flew over ruined cities, and across every wall, scratched in metal, painted in blood, drawn in hope, was the mark. A half moon. 3 dots. Lena's mark. And deep in the Zarnak capital, the High Council met in silence. One of them finally spoke. She was just a human girl. Another answered. No. She was the beginning. And from that day forward, every Zarnak soldier, when asked what they feared most, did not say ships, or guns, or generals. They said just one name. Lena. The ghost. The nightmare of empires.